What's up, peeps? In today's video, I want to introduce you to the team I've been running with throughout Dragonflight and what our goals are for this season. If you've been following over on Twitch for a while now, you're probably at least somewhat familiar with my teammates, but even so, I don't know that I've ever done a proper introduction, and I wanted to give y'all on YouTube a little more insight to the team. To start off, we've got the Druid main Nunner. I met Nunner back in Shadowlands Season 1. I had just gotten into PvP and wanted to push for 1800 for the Goated Plate Elite set. I was stuck in LFG hell until I got my first queue session with Nunner. I added him after our first session and we played all throughout Shadowlands. After getting 1800 our first season, we were able to push 2100 every season after, and never really pushed any higher. For the most part, we played Warrior Druid throughout Shadowlands, but near the end of the expansion we started branching out and playing other alt comps in twos. Nunner is best known for playing Resto Druid, but throughout this expansion I've really come to enjoy healing, so he's been gracious enough to let me play the role, and he has picked up both Frost, Death Knight, and Demon Hunter to a high level. He's also gotten really into Preservation Evoker healing as well. Being true to the Druid class fantasy, he's played and gotten decent at several other specs as well, including 2 of the 3 Hunter specs, Holy Paladin, Balanced Druid, and Disc Priest. He's been willing and skillful at filling whatever slot we need in the comps we want to run, and we definitely couldn't have tried all the comps we have without him. Next up, we've got our Devoker specialist, Reflex. Nunner and I met Reflex near the end of Shadowlands through some mutual arena partners. He was playing Feral Druid at the time, and all of our games were just casual fun. Heading into Dragonflight, Reflex planned on playing Death Knight, and we did play a lot of Death Knight games, but at some point he leveled an Evoker and fell in love with the class. Reflex is someone who really has to be into the class he's playing to enjoy it, and for him that's definitely Evoker. He's our local team Rager, and he's the one on our team who does the most analytical work as far as trying to figure out how things could be better. Throughout Dragonflight he's played both Death Knight and Ret Paladin to a high level as well, but hasn't put as much effort into them as he has his Devoker. This season will likely be changing that, but I'll talk about that a bit later on in the video. And last but not least, you've got me. Like I mentioned earlier, I've played Warrior since I started WoW and throughout Shadowlands, which was the start of my PvP journey. Coming into Dragonflight, I wanted to play some healer and was planning on playing Resto Shaman, which thematically has always been one of my favorite classes, but starting off this expansion they were looking really bad, so I decided to pick up Preservation Evoker, which I've come to really enjoy. Due to solo shuffle queue times, I quickly became more interested in healing throughout the expansion. I played every single healer spec at some point, but I'm most versed at Resto Shaman, which I played throughout most of Season 2 and all of Season 3. Holy Paladin, funnily enough, is the healer I've hit the highest rating with, after the rework in 10.1.7, but I completely dropped it going into Season 3. Demon Hunter is the only other DPS class I've played this expansion, and although I was able to climb decently high with it, I'd say that was more due to the class just being strong. And that brings us to our plans for this season. Season 1, we were kind of just discovering ourselves as a threes team, and I honestly can't even remember what we really played. Season 2, we really focused on pushing DK once I swapped over to the Holy Paladin. Nunner was on the Hunter and Reflex was on the DK, and we were able to push into the mid 2100s with the comp. We put a lot of effort into the comp, and it was our first experience really pushing as a team. Going into Season 3, we really wanted to lean into letting Reflex play what he truly enjoyed, the Devoker. We tried a couple comps throughout the season, but once we were fully geared, we settled into playing Draco Cleave with Nunner on the Frost DK and myself on Resto Shaman. This is kind of known as a cheesy spec, and at the lower ratings that's probably a fair assessment, but once you get into the higher ratings, it basically becomes a 1-minute RMP that is extremely setup based, has very little pressure in between goes, and is honestly kind of stressful because of how squishy it is. We climbed to the same rating we had reached in Season 2, and with the deflation that happened between Season 2 and 3, I'd still consider that an improvement. We were a little out of our league as we only played this comp for a couple months. Nunner had virtually just picked up Frost DK to play this comp, and I was playing a non-optimal healer as well. That brings us to Season 4. We had long discussions on what we were going to play this season. We've basically laid out every class and spec each of us have and would be interested in playing, and have come up with comps we'd like to try out. We put a lot of effort into Draco Cleave, but it is virtually non-playable right now due to the loss of secondary stats, as we've had to switch over to green gear, the loss of tier sets, and the increased versatility and health pools of everyone in an arena right now. We're not completely giving up on the comp as we've put in tons of hours improving it, but we're going to have to wait till later into the season to pick it back up. We've narrowed it down to a few comps we'd like to play, including Ret Warrior with Nunner on the Prevoker, Cupid with myself on the Holy Priest, and a couple comps that we may dabble with. We're wanting to find a long-term meta comp that we can play season to season, where everyone enjoys the class they're on. 2400 and Gladiator is still the goal for us, but due to the nature of the last season of an expansion usually being the least participated in and the most deflated, we're treating this season as a time to hone our skills and prepare for the first season of the War Within. And that pretty much sums it up. If you'd like to follow our journey along, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. You can also follow along live over on Twitch, where I stream at least 4 days a week. We'll see you in the arena.